But yes, to echo what John said, thank you so much for being here this morning. This is a topic that I really enjoy teaching because I think it's a lot of fun, it's interesting, and it definitely applies to everybody sitting in this room. A shout out to John and Sandy at the county, and to Lisa and Donna and Nick at the city. Yes, I forget. Yep, the city, because without them making this happen, it wouldn't happen. So thank you to those who got it going. So we are talking about customer service this morning, and here are our objectives. And actually, before we dig in, I don't know who we have in this group. Who do we have? Where are you from? Just shout it out and I'll repeat it. Bus. Okay. Okay, dispatch for rapid ride, dial ride. Who else do we have? Treasurer's office. We have the fire department. State's attorney's office. Highway. Parking enforcement. Human resources. Civil department. Aquatics. City, county, alcohol and drug. Anybody else? PD records. Health and human services. Okay, so we have a very vast group of people here. Agree? So as we talk about customer service, please be sure to think to yourselves, how does this apply to me and my specific role? Because you might be thinking, well, I work at, alcohol, drug. She didn't say anything that helps me. Apply it to your own situation and realize that if you work with people, you are doing customer service. If you work with people in any capacity whatsoever. Our objectives this morning first is to identify some basics of customer service. When you see these basics, you're going to go, yeah, no duh. But no duh doesn't always translate into a daily practice and habit. Secondly, communicating with customers. And third, and the most fun part, is what to do when. So when a customer says something not so nice, when he or she reacts in an angry way, we want to equip you with some ideas of what to do in those situations. Let's define customer service. I'd like you to wipe from your minds the idea that customer service is just a phone number that you would call or a desk. Somebody standing there, hi, my name is Leah, how may I help you? That's not just customer service. Customer service is more broad. Every conversation, every interaction that you have with a customer, aka citizen, is customer service or experience. So put that into your mind, a way of thinking about customer service, that it's the day-to-day interactions that you have. Not only that, and as more importantly, in fact, possibly more important, is internal customer service. So Lisa works in HR with the city. She may not deal with citizens on a very regular basis, but she is working with her fellow employees on a day-to-day basis, providing what's called internal customer service. And it's every bit as important what she does as what those of you who work with the citizens on a day-to-day basis. Do you agree with that? So a lot of us do internal customer service. So how many of you were voluntold to be here? Voluntold means somebody else signed you up. Okay, so you may be thinking, I don't do customer service. I sit behind a desk all day, or I barely ever talk to citizens. Again, if you're sitting here, customer service is your job. Not only that, there's a with him. I was in the South Dakota National Guard for 22 years, so I'm required to use acronyms. And the first one is a with him. What's in it for me? Number one, do you agree that customer complaints waste time and resources and money? Absolutely. Now, is anybody out there thinking, but we're the only gig in town? If they live in the city or they live in Pennington County, we're the only services they can get for specific things. It's true, but on the other hand, can they make your lives miserable if they're unhappy and they complain? Absolutely. So we want to mitigate that as much as possible. Secondly, keeping customers happy makes for a much happier workplace and is less stressful on you personally. Does anybody here in this room get up in the morning and go, man, I hope when I get to work I get yelled at by coworkers. I hope some citizens come in and they're total jerks to me. I can't wait. I don't see any hands. Yeah, none of us enjoy that. None of us enjoy a bad interaction with a customer or fellow coworkers. These people are your neighbors literally. Rapid City, Pennington County are big, but then again, they're small. And we tend to see people regularly, don't we? I want to tell you a story about something that happened to me with a coworker. When I was in the National Guard toward the end of my time, I was going to Camp Rapid to work, and I came up on a four-way stop with a fellow coworker. Now, we both thought we stopped first. I still think I did, but whatever. So we both stop first. We both start to go, and I look over, and I get the double bird from her. You know what I'm talking about? Double bird. She didn't know it was me. I definitely knew it was her. So when I got to Camp Rapid, I sought her out, and I was like, hey, Mary, that was funny at the stop sign. That was you? Oh, my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. So if she would have known it was me, she wouldn't have reacted that way. But she was embarrassed, and you can see why. So you're going to run into these people, make the interactions the best they can be. How many of you have heard of the golden rule? I think most of us have. I'm going to challenge you to update that to the platinum rule. Have you ever heard of the platinum rule? The platinum rule is treat others the way that they want to be treated. Let me give you an example of that. If a tax assessor comes to my door, knocks on the door and says, here's what I'm doing, I won't be long, have a nice day, and I say, wait, I have some questions, can you refer me to a website? I expect him to send me to a website. Now, what if I was an 85-year-old grandma? Do I want a website? I probably want him to take 15 minutes, stand there and help me understand why he's there, what he's doing, what's going to happen. So treating people the way that they want to be treated is one of the best tricks that you can do to serve customers really well. Here's another illustration to keep in mind. So we'll talk about this a little bit later, customer expectations. Customers expect similar services to what they can get in the private market, fair or not fair. We're judged very similarly. So this is called the customer complaint iceberg. Here's how it works. For every 26 complaints, only one person complains in a way where something can be done about it. In other words, they go to a manager, they go to a supervisor, they complain, they fill out a form, they use a channel where they can actually, something can be done with that complaint. What do the other 25 do? You know what they do. Da, 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 right? They start the gossip. They start bad-mouthing the city and the county. Pretty soon it looks like you're doing a horrible job when really it was maybe just a very minor complaint that's gotten blown out of proportion. Unfortunate, but it is what happens. And the iceberg refers to the fact that those 25 people then go on and they tell 25 more, who tell 25 more, and it just kind of snowballs to the point of being out of control. We want to prevent that, don't we? And not let that happen. Okay, I know your job is tough. You are working for a government entity. You work for the city or the county. It's not Walmart. It's not Amazon. It's unique. So I want to share some things with you that hopefully convince you, if you aren't already, that your job is tough, specifically as it relates to customer service. Now, how many are proud Americans like I am? We're proud, right? We love to be Americans. We're based on a democratic system of, by, and for the people. But then we turn around and disparage the same system that we've created and that we are part of. I don't know why we do it. I can't explain it. We do it, though. Demands on those of you who serve are sometimes unreasonable. Is that true? I pay your wages. I pay taxes. Therefore, you have to do X, Y, Z. I'm sure you've heard it. Some of you have heard it, where people are not reasonable about it. Now, let's just say hypothetically that our government is not perfect. If that's true, then that imperfection leads to negative perceptions about the entire system, including those of you who work in it. Poor understanding of government function. Is that a fact? Now, when do people care about how things work in the government? When it affects them, absolutely. Until it affects them, a majority of people are not very interested in the government, unfortunately, because, again, government is made up of the people, and so we should pay attention. Us versus them mentality. Have you seen it? Government's out to get you. You hear people say that. You see bumper stickers. Some people have that mentality. You're the closest person for someone to vent. So let's say that the gals in the back walk up and they want to ticket my vehicle. Well, I run out there and I say, don't put a parking ticket on my vehicle. And I want to start ranting about how high my taxes are and how my property taxes are going up. Do they have anything at all to do with that? Absolutely not. But there they are, smiling, writing my ticket. So I'm going to take that opportunity and vent on them. Ongoing changes. So we just went through an election process. We have changes even of folks who are going to be sitting up here. Does that lead to a little bit of stress and change for all of you? City ordinances are changing. So those are some of the reasons. And finally, you may be as frustrated as fellow citizens, but you might not be in a position to be able to do anything about it. Your position is to do your job and follow the things that have been laid out for you. That all makes sense as to why I think we understand your jobs are slightly more difficult as it relates to customer service than, say, someone working at a coffee shop. Now, here's the disclaimer. I think a lot of us have heard and been taught the customer's always right. The customer's always right. Customer's always right. Is that true? They're not always right. I did this training with a group of tax assessors, and a gentleman raised his hand and said, yeah, I had a guy one time ask me to just ignore the fact that he just put a 3,000 square foot addition on his home because he didn't want it to be taxed. Now, could the tax assessor go, oh, yeah, great idea, I'll just go ahead and do that? No, he couldn't ignore it. He had to do his job. So keep in mind that we know people ask sometimes unreasonable things of you, and you're not called to go ahead and do whatever they want. All right. So I'd like to hear from all of you, and I'll repeat what you say so that those watching can hear us. But a lot of you work in a very direct customer service way. You're on the phone, you're out on the streets, you're at a desk working with people face to face. What does excellent customer service look like to you? What are some things that you know about it that work for you? Smiling face, absolutely. Now, do they care if your cat just got run over by a car? They don't care. They want you to smile and do your job, right? So, yes, smiling face. How about over here? Listen to what they're saying. I'm going to put that in caps because that's really important. And we're going to talk more about that. But you could solve half the battle just by listening. Yes, ma'am. Your appearance. Yeah. Yeah, if you show up with really muddy boots or a wrinkled shirt, that sends a message, doesn't it? Absolutely. Keeping an even tone in your voice. So this morning I ran into Sandy from Pennington County HR. She came up and said, I lost my voice. So then I said, oh, that's too bad. I hope you feel better. When someone raises their voice or lowers it real low, we tend to match that. So if you have an upset customer, the best thing you can do is keep your volume and tone on an even keel to help them cool their jets, maybe. Okay, what else? Acknowledge them when they walk in the door or when you approach them. I'm sure you've all been in a store where you walk up and it's kind of like this, and they don't look at you and go, hey, how can I help you? So yeah, just that eye contact and acknowledgement for sure. What else? Be patient and take deep breaths. Absolutely. I don't know if I spelled that right, but some of that is that inner dialogue that you have where you're thinking, okay, they're going on and on and on, or okay, they're getting upset. The best thing I can do is breathe and think about what I'm going to say before I say it. Okay, yes, sir.
Take the time to explain to people why you can or cannot grant their needs or wish.
Yes. One of my favorite books is called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And one of the best quotes in that book is something to the effect that reasonable people don't need to get their way. They just need to know that their thoughts and words were considered. Now, we're not all reasonable in this world, but 9 times out of 10, if you take the time to explain why things are the way they are, a reasonable person will go, oh, okay, I still don't like it, but I understand. Again, we're not all reasonable, but anything else?
Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do.
Yes. Focus on what can be done. In fact, a phrase that I would strongly encourage you to add to your arsenal, if you haven't already, is what I can do is blank. And you were going to say something as well. Yes, nonverbal communication skills. Absolutely. Now that's a really nice list. I think you all could teach this class and we could be done, but we're not. We're going to go on. That's a really good list. We're going to keep that up there. So we're going to dive into those 3 things I mentioned before, starting with some real basics of customer service. And you have really nailed a lot of them. And so we can whiz through these pretty quickly, but first impressions are lasting. So a lot of the things that you mentioned leave an impression that regardless of how well the rest of the conversation or interaction goes, they may go back to that very first impression. So if you didn't make eye contact, if you looked annoyed, they're going to keep that in mind even if you helped. Let's look at a few pictures and just kind of assess what we see here. Now that's not an actual city or county office. But what do you see when you walk up to that? There's flags. It looks inaccessible. My question is, what do I look at? Where do I focus? The guy doesn't look especially interested in helping. He's not right at the front. Have any of you ever walked up to a customer service desk and there's a tiny little sign down here in 11 font type that says, we don't offer that service here? And the person's like, oh, did you see the sign down here at the bottom? Irritating, isn't it? It's kind of similar to this where there is just too much going on. You don't know where to focus, where to look at, and it's confusing. How about this one? So somebody already said body language and nonverbal. What if that lady's saying, it's fine, I'm here to help you? Like, ugh. She said it's fine. I'm not buying it. Body language does not lie. If you are sending somebody a mixed signal between what you're saying and how you're acting, they'll always go to your body language. So keep that in mind. How about that? He's not interested. He's maybe ignoring the person talking. Now it's different if you pull out your phone and say, I'm going to look something up for you. Just give me 1 second. Versus, oh, my kid needs lunch money. I better quick see what's going on. right? How about that? Now, this is kind of a trick question because I don't see anything wrong with that interaction. In fact, she's smiling. He has a clipboard, looks very professional. He's smiling. I think it looks fine. How about that? Even with a fellow coworker, and I don't know what your policies are in your specific offices, if you are wearing earbuds or earphones like that, what message does that send? Don't bother me. Absolutely. Hey, I'm listening to a podcast. Got to finish that up real quick. How about that? Guy needs an iron, huh? Now, you may not see this very well. Those papers are kind of crumpled up. One thing the tax assessors said that they do is they carry around information with them so that if somebody doesn't want a website, they can go, here you go, Denise, here's what I'm doing. But how about they pull that out of their back pocket and it's all sweaty and crumpled up? Not so much, right? So all of those first impressions make a difference with your customers. Second point, common courtesies like please, thank you, I'm sorry. Now, I get some pushback on saying I'm sorry. What do you all think about saying sorry for something that's not your fault? Good idea, bad idea? Depends on the situation, absolutely. Now, if you're saying sorry because you're being empathetic and you're sorry for the situation they're in, I think that's 100% appropriate and good. Did you all see this newspaper article a few days ago? Julie Pearson said, Election Day was a mess. Now, was she 100% completely responsible for everything that happened to her personally? Absolutely not. But she did the right thing as a leader and said, hey, I'm sorry this happened. I'm sorry if you people were frustrated. It is often appropriate to say, I'm sorry to a customer or a citizen. Stick to the script. Now, I got to tour the 911 office across the way here last week. Very, very interesting. They literally have a script. I don't know if you've all been in there. You probably haven't, but if their computers go down, they refer to the script, what to say in certain scenarios. How many of you have a script of what to say with customers with different scenarios? And depending on your job, it's not always appropriate, but if you have a script, I strongly encourage you to stick to it. It's there for a reason. Not only that, but the more we're consistent with customers, giving to Cora the same thing that we give to Mark, there's no room for, hey, I was treated unfairly. So as much as you can, stick to the script. Use the person's name. The thing that we all like to hear more or as much as you've just won the lottery is your name. So your name's Jamie. You like to hear your name, don't you, instead of hey you or ma'am or whatever. So if you can use the person's name, they like to hear that. We already said this, cell phones, other distractions, a big Slurpee cup, crumpled up newspaper, earphones, those things should be laid aside. As much as you can, avoid the runaround. Who wants to tell us all what that means? Keep referring them to somebody else, transferring them. I don't do that here. Oh, we're only open for 2 more minutes, so I can't help you right now. And sometimes that is appropriate. We have the finance office in the room, don't we, this morning? Is anybody from the finance office? They were here yesterday, and they said it's really odd. No matter what the situation, when we have an upset citizen, they always transfer them to us. We don't know why, but what we do is we help them. And if we literally can't help them, we say, hey, that's an issue for Kip up in the planning department. Here's his direct number, and I'm going to let you talk with him. So pass the buck, whatever you want to call it, people get really annoyed when they experience the runaround. Wear a name tag. How many of you wear a name tag or at least a logoed shirt? Yeah, a name tag is an invitation to be approached. Several years ago, I was the director of religious education at our church, a huge church here in Rapid City. And I had people say all the time, "Oh, you're Leah, right? Do you work here? Okay, I thought you worked here." And then we go on and talk about whatever. I went to the church leadership and said, people don't know me from Adam. No pun intended. My husband's name is Adam. So if they have a question, they don't know who to ask. Oh, it's fine. If they keep coming back regularly, they'll figure it out. Well, guess what? A year later, they all had T-shirts with their name and the church logo. It's hard to be right all the time. I tell my kids that. They don't think that's funny at all. Customer expectations. Now, fair or not, you are being compared to Starbucks, to Google, to Walmart. Now, it's not fair, but citizens do expect that the government's going to provide the same quality of service as they can get in a consumer business. Is that fair? I mean, it's kind of not fair. However, we have the means to make that better. Customers also expect transparency, right? We are taxpayers, and so we want to know what goes on in different meetings and whatnot. Access. Do citizens want to be able to get to you and ask their questions and have their concerns addressed? Absolutely. They get frustrated when they can't find somebody. Prompt responses, right? 24 hours is what I usually recommend if possible. And if it's not possible, to go back and say, I need more time. I'll get back to you on such and such a day. Omni-channel integration. I know that's a mouthful. All it means is that if somebody comes to, trying to read name tags, Cindy, they should have the same answer from Cindy as they do if they call on the phone or if they go to the website. That's what omni-channel integration is. And you've probably had it happen where you go to the Best Buy website, you're like, oh, awesome, that TV I want is in stock. So you drive up there and they say, oh, we don't have that one anymore. What? I just saw it on the website. So people want to get that same message. Finally, if you have social media in your offices, people want you to respond to that and provide some kind of response. Anything else that you are aware of that customers expect? Now, are they always reasonable expectations? They're not. But again, remember, reasonable people don't always need to get their way. All right. Final point about customer service basics is this. Consider the power of your attitude. And that kind of goes back to what Lisa was saying about being patient, taking deep breaths, etc. I was pretty far into my adult years before I realized I can choose my attitude despite everybody around me who's being, they're acting unhappy or they have issues with whatever. You can choose your attitude and go through your day much happier than if you did not choose your attitude. Okay, so this is just an acrostic, nice reminders about greeting your customers, treating them with respect. We all want to be respected, don't we? Chatting with them, getting to know them a little bit better. All right? Questions, comments so far? This all making sense? Clear as mud. All right, second point, talking with customers. Notice the to is crossed out very intentionally. You're not talking to them or at them. You are talking with them. And it all starts with the first thing, which is creating a connection with them. How do you create a connection with your customers? Empathy. Be personable. How about chat them up a little bit? If you are in a position to, and if you have time, ask them about their day, ask them about their kids, whatever. People love to hear their name and be asked about their lives. It's a really good way to talk with your customers. We already said this. Greet your customers with a smile and maintain that eye contact. As soon as you look away without helping them understand why you're looking away, you may have lost them. Listen more than you talk. Because what are you doing as you're listening? You're trying to get to the heart of the matter. You're trying to really understand what's going on here. What's this person's issue and how can I help? Now, is it possible to listen too much? Have we been overtrained in listening? When do we listen too much, do you think? Yeah, when somebody gets off track, they get off their point. Maybe they're there to see you for a very specific reason, and all of a sudden they're talking about their taxes. Yeah, there is a time when people talk too much. We had a gal yesterday say that she finally asked a gentleman, you know, you've called me 3 times about something I can't help you with. Why are you calling and how can I help you? So she was still really nice, but I think it alerted him like, hey, she's right. She can't help me. I don't know why I keep calling her. Empathic listening is one of the best tools that you have. Who knows what empathic listening is? Anybody? We're going to do a demonstration. Do you want to? I feel like you want to. Okay, I'm going to tell a very short story. I'd like this half of the room to listen for the facts of the story, and this half of the room listen for the feelings behind the facts. Does that make sense? Okay, so when I was in college, I did my undergraduate work at Black Hills State in Spearfish. My husband, boyfriend at the time, his roommate and I went cross-country skiing on a really, really cold day. We did a 2-mile loop. We got back to the parking lot, and I said, I'm done. I'm freezing. My husband and his friend were like, no, it's great. I'm going to go again. So I said, you guys go on. I'm going to stay here. So I stay there. I'm drinking a Coke. I wish it was something else, but it really was a Coke. And what happens when you drink pop? You have to go to the bathroom, right? So there's a porta potty. I walk over there. I'm wearing mittens, and I'm holding my pop can and the keys in the same hand. Go to the porta potty, open up the lid, throw the can in. The keys went in with the can. Oh. So my husband and his roommate get back to his truck, and I'm bawling crocodile tears. Oh. They're like, oh my gosh, what happened? Did you fall down? Did you hurt yourself? I said, no, the keys are in the porta potty. Well, long story short, we got the keys. Everything was frozen, so we're all good. Don't throw pop cans in a porta potty when you have keys in your hands is the moral of the story. Okay, what happened? Threw my keys in the porta potty. That's kind of the bottom line. What were the feelings behind that story? Frustration. What? It was a bad day. Panic. Incompetence. It was a really dumb thing, wasn't it? You know, we didn't recycle in the 90s. I don't know. Shame on us. Was I embarrassed? Yes. Did I say any of those words? I did not, but they picked it up based on what I said and how I told the story. That's empathic listening, and it's the way to really get to the heart of the matter. Ask me how I'm doing today. I'm okay. You see the difference, right? Body language doesn't lie, and empathic listening helps you get to the heart of the matter. Body language, tone of voice, we already mentioned that. Very, very important. Remember which side of the desk you're on. Do you know what I'm talking about there? Or which side of the car you're on? You have the upper hand. You have what the citizen wants. They don't have the information. They don't have the knowledge base that you have. So when you talk to them in a way that is over their heads, you may not be helping as much as you think you are. So you have to break it down into manageable pieces so they understand what you're trying to do and how you're trying to help them. Think of yourself as an educator. I think Mark said that if you take the time to explain in a way that they'll understand, half the battle is won right there. Avoid the TLAs. Do you know what the TLAs are? 3-letter acronyms. I fooled you. Right? That goes along with speaking in a way that makes sense to them. I did a training with a group of engineers, and one of the lead engineers got up and said, I need you guys to quit speaking engineerlish. Start talking English because our customers don't know what the heck you're talking about. Similar with you, there's a lot of very, office-specific terminology that you may use. Your customers don't know what that means, so break it down for them. Know your audience. Reference the story I told about a grandma versus most of us who prefer a website. Don't make assumptions about your customers. I told you all I was in the military for 22 years. To this day, I kid you not, sometimes I'll go to like a new doctor and they'll say, what's your insurance? And I'll say, TRICARE Retired Reserve. They'll say, okay, I just need your husband's social security number. Why would you need his? I was the one in the freaking military for 22 years. See, even to this day, I get a little irritated about that. So if you are going to a person's home to do code enforcement or something, please don't say, hey, get your husband to call me so I can explain what's going on. That's an assumption that'll probably get you into trouble, right? Even if that one is true, that one specifically. It's not just what you say, it is how you say it. Keep that in mind. So if you are blaming, being overly negative, or if the person feels judged, like you make them feel stupid, probably not going to go your way. My husband and I were in a big store the other night, and a huge store. We're wandering around. We finally find somebody and say, can you tell us where the garden hoses are? She did this, probably in the garden center. Would you like to be talked to like that? Yeah, right. It's how you say it. All right, let's talk about unhappy customers and what to do with them. Could I get a few people to help me hand these out? If I give a stack to you and you. So these are some best practices. And an important thing about these 6 things is that they don't go in any specific order. They're not numbered for that reason. They may go in order from left to right, top to bottom, but they may not. And we've already touched on a lot of these things. So again, apply this to your specific office, your specific situation. But different? You're like, hey, this doesn't look right. Starting with the top left box, put on your customer service hat. Keep in mind that when you're working with a citizen or even a fellow coworker, you are delivering customer service. So go into that mentality and trying to keep in mind, thank you, that it's not personal unless it really does get personal, and that you may have the upper hand, and so you are providing customer service. If you are a person who has trigger words, like what if somebody came up and said, well, you're just a government worker? People in other classes have said that that has been said to them. Would that get you irritated? It probably would me if I were in your shoes. And so when you have your customer service hat on, you know yourself well enough to know what somebody could say to get you irritated and what you're going to do about it. Deep breathing is excellent. Telling yourself to be patient is excellent. All having that customer service hat on. Secondly, clarify. How do you know how to solve someone's problem if you don't truly know what the problem is? And what's the best way to clarify the problem? To listen. Listen, let them explain themselves, and then start asking your questions. Okay? Try to get to the root of the cause, what's really going on, so that you can help them or refer them to the next person. Third point, listen first, talk second. I think we've talked a lot about that. Empathic listening is excellent. So is active listening. Do you all know what active listening is? Yeah, active listening is asking questions to clarify. It is using that eye contact. It's also asking them, hey, I've said, if you are explaining something, you can say to them, hey, I've said a lot. Do you have any questions? Do you understand so far? So it's getting to that level of we're on the same page and you understand me and I understand you. Fourth point, take action. Partner for a solution. And I really believe that one of the best things you can say to a customer is this. What I can do is this. So when somebody, yesterday we had a lifeguard say that a parent was irritated with the dad. A parent was irritated with the lifeguard because the lifeguard told a very small child he couldn't go up high on this teeny tiny, on this huge slide. So the lifeguard said, well, sir, I can't let your very small child go on that huge slide. What I can do is let him go on that baby slide over there. You see the difference between just telling somebody no and telling them what you really can do for them? Again, remember that people can be unreasonable and ask you to do things that are against your policy, against your rules, and you can't do those things. Follow up is the next thing. And following up really is just what it sounds like. It is if you promise to call them back. If you promise you're going to send an email, send that email. Because what happens when you don't follow up with somebody? You lose credibility, you lose trust, and all of a sudden they're upset. Last point is to use the feedback. If a customer gives you some feedback, good or bad, evaluate that. Take a look at it and go, you know what? That's a good idea. I think we can make that change. Let's update our practices. Let's update our policies. Would you add anything to that list? And can you see yourselves, each one of you, within that in your specific offices? All right, here's the fun time. We're going to practice. Here are these what to do when scenarios. So I've chosen 10, and this is input that I've gotten from the city and the county, things that customers have actually said. What I'd like you to do is this. Get into groups of about 5. If you are sitting near coworkers or they're in the room, get together with them, but if not, just any 5 will do. Either pick one of these or come up with your own, maybe something you've heard in your office that someone has said, and just talk through what would we do, what would we say. Okay, any questions about that? And then when we're all done, we'll have you report to the full room so that we can learn from each other. I can tell you're excited. All right, so find your people, either pick one of these or pick one of your own. Okay, let's bring it back to the large group. And John and I just decided rather than him running around trying to get the mic in front of you, I'll just repeat what you say. So could we start with this group here, Jennifer and you ladies? What did you talk about?
Why don't we just pick number 1?
Pick number 1, okay. Okay, so to summarize what Denise said, if someone is transferred to the supervisor, sometimes they just want his or her time, so give them a little bit of time, listen, and in my opinion, and I hope you agree with this, it's really, really important that a supervisor validates what the first person said. Because what happens when the supervisor says, oh, don't listen to Jennifer, she doesn't know what she's talking about. You lose credibility, and all of a sudden you're opened up for, hey, this person was treated this way, this person was treated that way. They're not on the same page with policies and procedures. So the best thing you can have next to a script is policies and procedures that are very clear about here's how we do X, Y, Z. Okay, thank you. How about this next group of folks here? Okay, so they also picked number one about people wanting to speak with the supervisor. And the cynic in me says people ask to speak with the supervisor when they think they're going to get somewhere that they didn't originally with the first person. But I liked what you said about unless you literally can't, try to not argue with them because they maybe feel like they have a little bit of control if they could speak with someone with a little more authority.
Not always the supervisor either. Where we're at in law enforcement, I can tell someone them their answer to their question.
Right.
But if somebody comes out that's in a different same answer, then they'll accept it.
So we should all carry guns, is what you're saying. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, it looks different. Someone in uniform maybe has a little bit more authority, or looks like they do. Same answer, but right. Or even said in a different way sometimes. Okay, how about back of the room? I don't know if we had two groups back there or just one. Okay.
Okay, so we went with the obvious number 9.
The parking ticket thing, for obvious reasons,
It happens every day.
every day.
If a person comes up and says, please usher in,
Okay, so some good nuggets there. So you're explaining what you're doing, you're explaining what they can do. This is a good statement. In the future, to avoid this situation, blah, 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 whatever, just helping them think through what they can do better next time. And also, you said to just be nice. They're already upset about a ticket, so do what you have to do in a nice way. Yeah, when I was in the military, I had a chaplain say to me one time, I love how you tell us what to do without telling us what to do. It's like, huh? It's kind of a head scratcher, but in other words, I said it in a nice way. And that was a nice compliment. Okay, how about that corner of the room by the table? Not said like that though. I pay your wages. Right? I'm a public servant, however, I'm not your personal servant. Can you say that in a way that they're not like you're being a smart aleck? Yeah. We actually had somebody say something similar yesterday, something to the effect of, yes, I'm a public servant. Let me explain to you how I actually get paid by the county or the city. And that would shut people down because they're like, I don't want to know the specifics. But it's a nice reminder.
And that too is, and we have used it, is I understand, I'm the taxpayer also.
Yes, be empathetic. I'm a taxpayer also. Yeah, you're not just representing the government, you also are a taxpayer. Yeah, right. You also don't set, they don't dictate property taxes, they don't set the prices for parking tickets. So you're, again, back to this. Explain what you can do, where you work, and what you can and cannot do, and why. Yeah, right. Somebody maybe is trying to get their kids electrocuted, and it's not their fault. Yeah, explaining why. If it's not obvious why a kid should get out of pool on a day that's lightning or a moment that's lightning, I guess you got to explain and explain why. Okay, how about the back of the room on this side? What'd you come up with? Yeah, so you've got a variety of offices represented here, but there are some common themes for all of us, explaining why and showing empathy. So for sure. Yeah, when somebody wants something in 2 minutes, we're not Starbucks, right? We can't get it that fast. You wouldn't say it that way, but yeah, helping them understand why it's taking longer is a good tool. Okay, and last but not least, were you six a group? Okay, number 5, who's in charge here? You're being totally unfair to me. I know it's because I am fill in the blank. Okay. So you explain why. Could you reference a policy? That's pretty clear. So if you are accused of racism, sexism, ageism, the best thing you can do is have clear policies and help them understand, regardless of who you are, everyone who's intoxicated can't ride this bus. Doesn't matter who they are. So as soon as we start not having standards, if we don't have standards, if we don't have policies, there is room for, hey, maybe I was treated a certain way because I'm a woman or because of X, Y, Z. Not only that, but it goes back to this point. If they are so inclined and they want to speak with the supervisor or somebody in authority, the best thing is if you have very clear policies where it shows what that person said is the same thing I would say to you, and it doesn't matter who you are. But that is a tricky one. Well, thank you. Wasn't that fun? You all did a great job, and we are running out of time. Here's a final point I want to remind you of. Remember that the customers, aka citizens, are the meaning of your work. They're not an interruption of it. They're the reason you do what you do, and you do it really well, and I appreciate every one of you. So just to summarize quickly, we talked about communicating with customers. We went through what to say in certain scenarios and also some basics of customer service. You'll have to do this on your way out the door since we're running out of time, but I truly hope you learned at least one thing that you can take and use, or I hope you were validated. A lot of you do these things just very naturally, or you've been at it a long time, so you know how to do these things. Keep doing them because you're doing an awesome job. If you would like to see these references, I can email you the PowerPoint slides. Just grab a card and send me an email. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Again, thank you, John and Lisa. You are welcome. And thanks. Joan was our mic lady, did all the behind the scenes.
You guys probably didn't see her back here.